Hello everyone and welcome to Leonora AstroTarot. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to be doing a full moon, blue moon reading. If this is your first time here, which it probably is because this is still a very new channel, it's just a couple of weeks old. Thank you so much for stopping by. I know there are so many readings that you can watch on YouTube. There's just so much to click on that I genuinely am happy that you found your way here to me. I am both a tarot reader and an astrologist, so there's a lot of astrology talk on my channel. If you're interested in a personal reading from me, you can see all the info down below. I also offer detailed natal charts, transit readings, things like that. You can reach me at leonora.astrotarot@gmail.com for more information. So let's talk about this blue moon, this full moon in Aquarius. For those of you that sort of pay close observation to the moon cycles, you'll already know that this is the second full moon in Aquarius that we have had in the past month. The first was at 1 degree. Now we're at the very end degrees of Aquarius. This full moon is happening at 29 degrees. So, and it is a blue moon. So, you know, we've all heard that expression, once in a blue moon, right? Blue moons actually occur every 2 to 3 years, and it's basically when there's an extra moon. So usually we have one full moon per year in each sign, right? So it's a sort of catch-up thing in the celestial sphere in which there needs to be sort of an extra moon. So those of you, particularly with significant Aquarius placements, this is a big deal for you this year, this summer. So you may have felt certain stirrings in whatever area of the chart, your chart, that Aquarius falls last month with the first full moon at 1 degree. If you're unsure about where this moon falls for you, of course you can see online horoscopes, you can see which area of your solar chart it's falling in. So that has to do with the sun sign. But if you want a more personalized understanding of where these full moons, new moons occur for you, you sort of have to know the houses in your own chart, so where your ascendant is. In order to calculate the ascendant, we do need like an exact birth time to the minute. Even if it's a few minutes off, that can shift the houses in the chart. It can change a lot. It can change your whole character. When I first had, years back, when I first had a natal chart reading done, my mother guessed my birth time, and it turns out she was 7 minutes off the accurate time. She later found out the accurate time, and that 7 minutes shifts the house of my son, which really shifts the entire focus of the personality, right? So it is very important that you have an accurate birth time. I always recommend not purchasing any expensive detailed natal chart reading from anyone unless you know the exact birth time, because you're just working with inaccurate information. If you have a guess, you can always check out online on the automated sites that can give you a sense of whether that birth time is accurate. But it is important to have as close an estimate as possible. There are astrologers that can do rectification if you have no way of finding out your birth time. I can do rectification within, you know, let's say a half-hour period, you know, to try and get the most accurate guess as possible. So if you are in that boat, if you kind of think, well, I was born around in the morning, but it could have been 6, could have been 6:30, reach out to me. I may be able to offer you some kind of guidance for rectification. Yeah, email is down below in the description box, leonora.astrotarot@gmail.com. But back to the full moon in Aquarius. So for those of you that are Aquarius rising, this is a very significant thing that has happened. There's a lot happening in your first house, in your house of you, right? There's a lot happening to your identity and where you are showing up in the world, what's going on around you. If you are Leo rising, then Aquarius is likely, because astrology is very precise. It's very mathematical. It's all about the degrees. So it's generally, yes, you will have Leo ruling your 7th house. If you're in Aquarius rising, your 7th house is all about your close one-on-one relationships. So if you are Leo rising, you are likely experiencing these 2 full moons in Aquarius in your relationship house. Of course, the fixed signs, the other fixed signs, those are Taurus and Scorpio, will experience them, these full moons, most likely in the other angular houses. So that's the 4th and the 10th house, which have to do with home and career. It's a little bit more nuanced than that, but generally we talk about the 4th house as the house of home and history, heritage, things like that. And the 10th house is all about reputation and your kind of worldly success and potential and things like that. Yeah, so this full moon, well, the blue moon, yeah, the blue moon is a sort of a special event, right? This particular blue moon is conjunct Jupiter. Jupiter is currently at 27. Sorry if you guys can hear some construction out there. I don't know if the video picks up everything. It can be quite noisy around here. This full moon is conjunct Jupiter. Jupiter is currently at 7 degrees of Aquarius, and it is retrograding through these late degrees of Aquarius, as it will be until December, where it will re-enter Pisces. Jupiter was in Pisces for a while at the beginning of the summer. It's completing its transit of Aquarius, so those of you that have placements in the late degrees of Aquarius will be experiencing this extra boost from Jupiter. Now, Jupiter does tend to inflate and exaggerate things at times. With the conjunction, we're getting this real fusion of the moon with Jupiter, right? So they're in the same place out in the cosmos. They are currently working together. So Jupiter is infusing the moon at the moment with its energy, and Jupiter's energy is all about expansion, right? Fundamentally, it's about expanding things. So, you know, this can be, you know, Jupiter is known as the planet of good luck. It's the great benefic. I don't really subscribe to this idea of benefic and malefic. It's kind of medieval to me. I think Saturn, which is a planet people tend to think of this sort of the depressing malefic, Saturn has a lot to teach us when we are working with it, and all planets have good and bad, just like, you know, all signs have their positive and negative manifestations. So I never really think of the planets as being malefic or benefic. And if you're someone that has kind of a challenging relationship with Jupiter in your personal natal chart, then sometimes it's hard to see Jupiter as a benefic. When Jupiter is working against us, or we have challenging Jupiter aspects, it can mean we struggle with self-limitation, with defining limits for ourselves, for doing things in moderation. It can lead to a lot of overextension, exaggeration, ego inflation, things like this. When Jupiter is working with us, and Jupiter is working very positively with this moon, it can just bring so much forward moving positive enhancement to the area of your life that this full moon is arriving in. So Jupiter just has this incredible potential to, you know, fulfill us, to bring us our dreams, to broaden our lives and our scope. So that's a little bit about the moon. Of course, we'll all experience it slightly differently. Those of us that experience it the most intensely will be those with significant places in late Aquarius. This is at 29 Aquarius, so of course if you have a planet in the early degrees of Pisces, you will also feel it. So enough about that. I think I've done my Astro Ramble. But today we're going to be asking for a little forecast, a little information about how you might be experiencing this moon. We have 4 groups today. Number 1 is the Quartz, number 2 is the red Calcite, number 3 is the Amazonite, and number 4 is the Amethyst. As ever, just go with the pile that is sort of pulling your eye. Let your eye draw you to the pile it wants to go to. Of course, if you are drawn to more than one, trust that there may be more than one message for you. You know, if you're looking at the piles and your eyes are darting back between them all, I would say either pause and come back to the video in a little while, and maybe then you will be drawn. to your pile, or it may be, of course, if that doesn't work, that this time there isn't a message for you, which if that's the case, I'm sorry guys. But I do recommend check out some of my videos and gradually kind of, like I said, this is a 2-week-old channel, so that there isn't a lot of readings yet, but there are plenty for you to kind of browse. Hopefully you'll find a message that connects with you. But yeah, I'll leave you guys for a moment to pick your pile, and I will see you in your reading. Okay, bye. Hi Pile 1, and welcome to your reading. You picked the Clare Quartz, and we're doing a full moon in Aquarius blue moon reading today. We want to know all about what's in store for you. Full moons, of course, are all about culmination. They are about things reaching a climax. They're all about sort of, we often experience epiphanies and insights at the time of the full moon. There's some construction work going on outside the window, and I don't know if the camera is picking it up. This is the second time I've tried to do this reading, but I'm just going to pull through and hope that you guys can hear me, because it's annoying. Anyway, let's try to get back to this Pile 1. We're using the Moonchild for this moon reading, and let's see which cards you got, Pile 1. You have the Page of Swords, we have the Fool, we have the Four of Wands, and we have the Nine of Swords. We have the Frog over here, the Arrow, Waxing Crescent, and Winter. So Pile 1, let's get into this. Interesting, this Page of Swords. She's standing in front of a very pink moon. I think the pink moon is the harvest moon, right? But we're at the blue moon right now. So what's coming through to me here is the way that she's sort of pointing at her own head and holding this sword. Of course, the sword is swords represent in tarot our own thoughts. The Page of Swords is often that character that's sort of digging around for truth, right? The figure in this card is coming through to me as being quite confused or troubled. Yeah, the way her hand is directed towards her mind. I do think a lot of you are really up in your heads at the moment. As this full moon is arriving, there is a lot of things that are running around in your mind. You may be, yes, quite troubled by your own thoughts. It may be in relationship to a particular situation. Excuse me, sorry. This doesn't, clearing my throat here. Yeah, there may be something that you want to speak on too, that you are struggling to find the right words, or there's a struggle to organize your thinking. You may be sitting down and trying to arrange your thoughts in a clear way, but it's just like it's not happening for you. I am, of course, filming this reading just prior to the full moon, so it may be, Pile 1, that as this moon arrives, it will bring with it clarity, it will bring with it illumination, so that you're able to feel a little less muddled, because I am feeling that a lot of you are just like really, really tied up in your own mind. The Page of Swords, people often sort of refer to it as sort of the stalker card, and it's someone digging around for info. I'm not feeling that that's necessarily what you're doing, Pile 1. Some of you might be. I'm feeling more like it's like there's this inner scrambling. It has to do with the mind space, right? When we're talking about the Page of Swords, there's just an overall, there's a bit of a thicket of trees behind her too. So it's like, it's as if there seems to be something that you want. There's a focus here, and the full moon is bringing progress. There's a plan, there's something that you're trying to achieve, but it's like you're in a kind of thicket, a mental thicket right now, Pile 1, and try as you might, you can't get the information or the clarity that you need to feel like you can move something forward or reach a kind of culmination that the full moon symbolizes. If you are in this state, I think pausing, going within, if your thoughts are just kind of running away like a train, it's just one thing after the other, that I think you've probably reached this point where they can't help you anymore. I think we get in our heads that if we have a problem to solve, if we can just figure out the right angle to think about it from, but that it's often our thoughts deceive us quite easily, right? And if our thoughts aren't sort of leading us to a satisfactory place to stand, it's because we haven't tuned in with our emotions, with our deeper self, with our intuition. So that's what is necessary here, pile one, and I think this full moon will be allowing you that. If you haven't had that moment of inspiration where you're like, aha, this is how I should go about this, I do think it's coming, and in the meantime, allow it to come, and in the meantime, try and calm your thinking, because I think you've got to the point that you're just sort of creating mental knots for yourself, and it's not helpful. The Fool, the Fool is, of course, card 0. It's about launching into something new. It's about taking risks. But the figure on this card is almost stumbling. It feels to me, Paul, one, that there's like something that you're focused on a direction here. You found yourself in a bit of a thicket. There is something that you want to move forward with, but it's like you feel somehow unprepared, or you just don't feel ready. There is a big sense of rush that's coming through to me, as if this is happening regardless of what you do, and you can't stop this forward motion. There's somewhere that you're going, but you don't feel ready. What is this white dog wolf? I'm just feeling like there's a lot of fear around taking this risk. There's a lot of fear of the unknown. This character, although I'm seeing her in this card as stumbling, she's surrounded by butterflies. So Paul 1, you may have for a time been going through a deep process of transformation, and that may have been a longer thing for some than others, but it's like this transformative metamorphosis, like it's leading you in a particular direction, and you're going there quickly, and there's no resisting this. It's happening, whether you're going to kind of drag your feet or overthink it. Like, it's happening regardless. And I think you know that, Paul 1, but there is this element of fear here in this Fool card, which there usually isn't, right, in the Fool. The Fool card is usually a very light, very optimistic and hopeful card. But that's not what I'm feeling here. It's like there's some kind of risk or chance or launching into the new here, but there is a lot of hesitation, there is a lot of fear, and there's just this heavy sense of unknown, of not knowing where you're going. Again, we're asking all about the new moon, sorry, the full moon, the blue moon, the full blue moon, and I do think that it will bring you just a sense of liberation from your own overthinking here, or this sense, Paul 1, that you can sort of protect yourself from fear, from the unknown, with your own thoughts, which we've all been there, right? And it just doesn't work. Us going around in circles about possible outcomes, as if that will protect us from the effect of that outcome. Like, we all do it at times. I do think this full moon is going to offer you a sort of passage, a gateway to kind of free yourself, liberate yourself from a cycle that you may have felt quite caught in. Perhaps, maybe it's only been for the last month, since the last full moon in Aquarius, this cycle of knowing that something has to change or move forward in some way. The way these full moons have sort of come together in this rare blue moon occurrence, it's almost like things that should have peaked or come to some kind of fruition, culmination point last month, have sort of needed more gestation time. That gestation time, Pile 1, for you may have led to a lot of overthinking, a lot of more sort of thoughts coming in, a lot of more doubts, having time to breed. It's time to let them go now. Yeah, we have the frog here who's asking you to step into your power. Don't take a back seat in your story. It's time to step up. Nice. Yeah, I mean, it's strongly coming through that there is something that you want to do, an action that you want to take. There is something that is asking you to have faith in it, to launch yourself into the new, know that whatever this is, because there is this fear on the Fool card, this fear of launching yourself into this state of uncertainty, know that whatever happens here, you're ready. You are ready. These butterflies are telling me that you have bloomed lately, Pile 1, into a new sort of state, a new cycle, and you are ready for all the changes that will come with that. You need to have faith in yourself that you know where you're going, and that these changes you've been going through, Pile 1, are organic, they are natural, they are needed. It's all part of your natural evolution. So have faith that nothing is happening before you're ready for it. You may be fooling yourself or telling yourself otherwise, but you are ready to change, to grow, to step up. Don't take a back seat in your story. It's time to step up. So the time is now. Any more delays around whatever this is for you, Pile 1, are probably only going to cause harm. You are ready for whatever you feel and sense or intuit is needing to come forth to, let's have a look at this arrow. Yeah, so the arrow is obviously, the arrow has a target, the arrow is very pointed. There is something that you are moving towards, and I do think for most of you, Pile 1, that it's something that you want. It's a very specific thing, a very specific idea, possibility, thing. Like, it'll be different for each of you, right? But the arrow is precise. It's headed in a particular direction. It is powerful, it is fast, it is strong. But of course, when we're trying to get an arrow at a target, that target is a fixed and that target is fixed in space, right? So there's always a risk when we're aiming for it that we will miss. So it does feel like this overthinking state, this Page of Swords that's going around in this mental thicket, is analyzing and examining all the ways in which this arrow could miss the target. Of course, when we start to become overly self-conscious, it's like that feeling of if you've ever fallen off a bike, let's say, and you hurt yourself, you harmed yourself, you grazed your knee, or more severe. I've definitely had some weird biking experiences in cities. It can really, really shake your confidence. And if you can relate to this feeling of you get back on the bike and you know how to ride a bike, once you learn how to ride a bike, you don't forget. It's in there, it's in your psyche, it's intuitive to you. But that fear and the self-conscious and the possibility of falling will then create inorganic movement, right? And you start to ride the bike in this really kind of clumsy way, and the likelihood of crashing then heightens. So if you can relate to that feeling, that's what I'm picking up here, that the more you overthink it, the more you allow yourself to move from the mental space, the head space, rather than from the heart space, from the intuitive, deeper, your deeper self or your higher self, the more likely you are to create problems for yourself, to miss your target. You really, really, Pile 1, have to stop overthinking this, and overthinking this arrow ending up in some random tree that wasn't what you were planning for. But there is this pressure, I think, that you are putting on yourself, Pile 1, that if you don't get something exactly right, it's like you've created this landscape in which the target is just this tiny thing, that there's all this space around it that your arrow could end up. That, of course, is also a matter of your perception. It may be, too, I do feel that you're being really hard on yourself. I don't know how many Virgos picked this pile. We are moving into Virgo season on the same day as the full moon, and this seems like very Virgo-ish. If you're not a Virgo, you may have certain Mercury placements that lead you to over-analysis and just perhaps under moments of stress and uncertainty falling back into kind of patterns of thinking you can control life by thinking about it. Believing if you just think about something in the right way, that this is a method of preparation, that you can prepare yourself from pain, from suffering, from unfavorable outcomes, things like that. It's not just Virgos that do that. We all have our moments. But overall, what I'm sensing with this arrow card is that you're telling yourself that this target is tiny, and the arrow can end up in all kinds of places, and I think that that is a matter of your perception. This is something that you're telling yourself. I don't think that there's all of this space for you to go wrong that you are that you believe there is, pile one. It's just, yeah, I do think a lot of you are just making this process, whatever it is for you, much harder than it needs to be, because we have the Four of Wands here, which is a very celebratory card. You know, it's a very festive card. It's all about coming together with others, right? It may be that this is what this is for you, pile one, that you want to come together with somebody else. There's two figures on this Four of Wands. There's often more than that on the Four of Wands. This may be about a specific thing, and it doesn't have to be a romantic thing. It can be a friend, a collaborator, any kind of connection. And in that case, this idea of this target, so I'm looking for one thing in a kind of busy haze of things, perhaps that's how you feel about this. It's almost like, if I can't get this one person, if I can't reach this one person, then there's no one. This perhaps is how you've set. It doesn't have to be a person. It can just be a single thing among many things that you, pile one, have your heart set on. And it feels like, if not this thing, if not this person, if this not this potential, if not this job, if not this college, something like that, then there's nothing else you want. So that's quite a big setup, pile one. Like that's quite a lot. Like, the character on this card wants to take the other character by the hand, right, and lead them to this place of beauty. Whether this person is going to take that hand and take their lead is an unknown. But this is a very positive energy that I'm feeling here in terms of potential. It does seem to me that a lot of you, pile ones, are wanting to offer something or wanting to put yourself forward to something, submit yourself, throw your hat in the ring, what have you, but there's something very precise about this, something very specific. It's this or nothing for you. So this Nine of Swords card following, you're really, really winding yourself up about this, pile one. You really are nervous. You really are up at night, going through all the ways that you can miss this target. This particular Nine of Swords, this person is holding the moon. These swords are coming at her, but she does seem quite serene despite that. Again, she's in this woodland thicket, and she's holding the full moon. Let this moon bring you space and clarity, freedom from a lot of your own worries, pile one. I think you've done your time, you've done your bit worrying about this not happening, this not working out. I think also the way this character is so calm, I think perhaps some of you already are, or you will be moving into this state with the full moon. The full moon will be helping you to reach a different way of relating to your fears and worries, and the way that you worry and perhaps overthink at times. She's focused on the moon rather than the swords here, so it's like giving your worry, seeing your worries for what they are, which is a way of trying to control life, right? Thinking, if I just think about this way, if I just, sometimes it's a superstitious thing, right? If I imagine the plane crashing, then the plane isn't going to crash because I already sort of played out that, I mean, how unlikely. We can get stuck in these sort of superstitious loops of thinking about things. But on this card, yeah, she's focused. The worries are there. They're surrounding her mind. But she's looking down at this moon. The worries are not her focus, and they are not going to get in her way. It's like perhaps the person on this card cannot get rid of these worries, can't stop their mind from coming up with these possible negative outcomes, but they can relate differently to the way they're thinking, to not take their thoughts so seriously, to consider them for what they are, which is just sort of perhaps at times a misguided attempt to control life. Yeah. This card is overall just giving me a sense of how I think positive this moon is going to be for you, Pile 1. It will be liberating you from a lot of the things that you have felt caught up in. Interesting, we have waxing crescent here as a astrological influence, because of course that isn't the moon phase that we're in, the waxing crescent. Yeah, that's the waxing crescent comes after the new moon, right? So it's when the moon is sort of re-emerging, the crescent. It's sort of a fraction of the new moon, right? The waxing crescent. I do think for a lot of you, yeah, this, the blue moon, the 2 Aquarian moons a month apart are very significant. So it's like, usually with the month cycle, the moon cycles, we move from one stage, or the moon is moving from one house in our chart, area of life, to another. But this summer, it's started in one house, but it's now at the end of that same house. So it does seem that you have been caught in this big pause moment, that ordinarily it would have only taken one cycle, but because of this blue moon, it's taken longer. So a part of you is still caught like in a past moon phase. It is time to move on, to allow change to happen, to sort of free yourself from this kind of hesitation or just interim, in between state, because that's a very, very frustrating place to be. I relate to that. I was in that state of mind recently where you're like, should I not? Like, is this the right thing? Should I just wait a bit longer to see if anything? Like, that kind of thinking to some degree can be helpful and is only sensible. But when we find ourselves there for too long, like a broken record, it can start to become destructive. We can start to miss out on life. It's kind of fear motivated behavior, because we don't trust ourselves to make the right choice. And I think you are ready and able to make the right choice here about moving forward, Pile 1. This moon is really going to set you free from this moment that you've been caught in, where you've been struggling to really, whether it's just like take the final steps towards something, because it may have been that you needed to do quite a bit of preparation here in order to get to this state where the Fool is ready to launch themselves out into the unknown, right? So you've had enough time at this point, Pile 1, to really to do that, to lay that foundation. It's just sometimes like that in between pause, the will I won't I state is so much harder than making a decision and feeling uncomfortable with that decision. Of course we have to be careful in life about not being impulsive and all of that, but there's not being impulsive, and there's just allowing things to stagnate and falling into ruts and things like that. For some, yeah, it may have just been this moon phase being extended. For others, this may have been much more of a long-term thing, that these Aquarian full moons are like the catalyst for something, but they may be the catalyst or just kind of the culmination of what's actually a much, much longer transformation for you. So this may have been a long, long time coming. Let's have a look at this winter card. Straight off, like what I'm getting here is some feeling or thinking, winter. I mean, this gives the winter is a cold season, right? And we're not in the winter, we're at the end of the summer. Depending on where you are in the world, it may feel more or less summery. It doesn't feel very summery where I am right now. Typical. This is a coldness, right? You know, for some, yeah, this may have been a very long time coming. I think you fear. You know, this is speaking to me about your fears, Pile 1, of sort of this summer is ending and we're moving towards, yeah. For a lot of us, we've felt time pass by in an uncomfortable way over the past 18 months. you fear the loss of this in a very deep way, or the loss of like missing your target, pile 1. And it's as if it will plunge you into this winter state, which I think, yes, is more likely an internal state. This black sky here with all these stars, and there's something rising here. There's just such a heavy sense of not knowing what is next, of what comes after this particular moment, that is just so looming and so heavy, it seems, for you to manage, pile 1. Again, that feeling of this or nothing. So if this doesn't happen, if it doesn't come together, it's like it's hard for you to imagine the future. The future just looks like winter. Will summer ever come again? The answer to that is absolutely yes, it will, pile 1. I'm not here to prophesize or tell you the outcomes of decisions that you make. This is a general reading, and I don't really do that kind of thing anyway, because I'm more interested in the present influences. But the idea that you're kind of doomed, if you fail at this, you're doomed, that's completely wrong, pile 1. Whatever will happen here is whatever will happen here, and it is part of your journey, it's part of your transformation, and whatever happens, you will survive it. And you will enter new cycles. There will be many more full moons, many more new moons. So never think there is an overall sort of eggs in one basket feeling here, but sometimes, yeah, we do really want something and we want to go for it, and we have our heart set on things. It's just, I think it's just really important to know and to understand that you are step into your power. You are powerful, pile 1. You are strong. There is this transformation that you've gone through. If something doesn't work out the way that you want it to, you are absolutely capable of surviving this. You will deal with whatever outcome comes. Like, to be honest, like I'm not feeling anything in terms of like what happens after this. I'm not evading anything. It's not clear to me, because it will be different for all. It's more about the state of mind that you find yourself in when you are watching this video at the time of the full moon. Just know that you can, whatever happens here, it'll be different for each of you, but whatever happens is what's supposed to happen for you to grow, to move forward on your sort of personal, arc, right? You're going somewhere. There will be many more full moons. Yeah. You are strong enough and capable enough of dealing with the outcome here. Yeah, let's just see if there's anything else we can pick up here. I want to look back at this Four of Wands card, because this is a very positive card for me. The way this person is sort of one person is looking to another, right? And leading them somewhere. There's definitely something that you want to offer, or it's like you're on a road and you want someone else to be on this road with you. There's something joyous and playful about, the Four of Wands is very celebratory. For some of you, this may be about a marriage proposal that's possible. That's very specific, won't be for everyone. But there's a way that you're putting yourself out there, and there's a way that you're proposing something to someone else. Take my hand, walk this road with me. But the other person is sort of not, I can't see the other person in this card. They have their back to me. It's very hard for me to get a read on this. But of course, in the card, there's... Just know that this is important. So much noise, pile 1, and it's happening. There's no turning back. This is happening. The more you drag your feet, the more you're kind of almost disrupting the organic movement of things. And your life has led you here, pile 1, and this is where you're supposed to be. And whatever happens here from here on out is what is supposed to happen. As much as you can, try to relax into your body and tune into what your body is telling you, and try to tune out your thoughts. Try part one to tune out your thoughts. I don't think they are helping you at the moment, but I do think that that will be something that's changing with the full moon. Yeah. I hope this was helpful for you guys, pile one. I will be wishing you very well for the month ahead, and however you are moving forward with this situation. I'm rooting for you always, and thank you so much for joining me. Likes, subscribes, and comments, and all of that really are helpful as I grow my channel, and I would just love to hear from you in general, connect with you if you are resonating with these readings. And yeah, it was a pleasure to read for you, and I hope to read for you again soon. Bye, pile one. Pile two, welcome to your reading. You picked the red calcite. Today we're asking all about the full moon, the blue moon in the sign of Aquarius. That is going to be on Sunday. I'm filming this just before the full moon. It will be happening in a different time, of course, depending on where you are in the world, but this is a special moon. It is the second full moon in Aquarius in the past month. The blue moon happens once every 2 to 3 years, apparently. So we want to ask Paul to what you can expect, the kind of energies that are at play for you as we move into this moon. So we have Judgment, we have the 8 of Wands, we have the 10 of Cups, and we have the 2 of Swords. We have the monkey, the owl, the sun, and core. Interesting, pile two. What an interesting blend of cards. So we're using the Moonchild tarot here for the full moon. Let's get into this, pile two. Let's see what you have. Judgment. Yeah, I mean, Judgment is very appropriate for the full moon, right? Because the full moon is all about culmination. It's about epiphany. It's about things reaching a sort of crescendo. And the Judgment is sort of about that too. It's about outcomes. It's about things rising and reaching their natural climax. You know what's coming through to me? There's this interesting sort of Egyptian, like, I don't know what you'd call this. I want to read up a little bit more on Egyptian sort of symbolism and imagery. But there's this bird. What was coming to mind is almost like this bird head is sort of much too small for this shape. Something is happening. We have this huge full moon here in this Judgment card. Something is happening to you, Paul, too. Something has been, you know, in the works for a while, and I do think around this full moon period, around this blue moon, you're going to be seeing progress in whatever that is, but it's like you feel, some of you may not feel ready for the changes that are happening in your life. Some of you may feel as if you are not up to a task, but I do think this is just your fears. I think this is not the case at all. I think whatever is happening to you, Paul, too, is something that is very positive and is very welcome and is very much sort of deserved and earned. There is something a little bit of an imposter, like this bird is doing, yeah. There's a little bit of an imposter syndrome, right? So it's feeling like we found ourselves in circumstances that we're not qualified for. But it's a psychological thing, right? You may be someone that have worked and trained for a particular role for years and put in a lot of effort, and you find yourself there and feeling like a little bit of an amateur, as if you are out of your depth, but you aren't, Paul, too. This is a psychological, it's a perception, and it has to do with our core sense of worth, right? Because there is a speed, there is a lot of things that are happening around you. If they haven't yet, then it's likely that they will be. But there are fears that are rising with this moon about whether you're out of your depth, whether you're up to a certain task, and this judgment, being judged by others, and how those judgments will show up. So there is also kind of a jury's out feeling to this, whether you will be judged as sort of small or big or something like that, whether you will be judged as up to the task. The 8 of Wands, this is a card about speed. It's about movement, messages. There's something very inevitable about this 8 of Swords, like something is coming towards you, or something is moving very quickly, and there's no stopping it. The way this sort of figure here, this statuette, has their back to the moon. I think some of you may be in a slightly state of denial about something that's happening in your life, or it's like something is already in the works, like it's happening whether you're going to look at it or not, or face it or not. Again, I'm getting this real vibe of like, am I ready for this? Can I deal with all that this brings? Something like that. This character is fixed in stone too. There is a bit, for the Eight of Wands, which is a very fluid card, it's almost like you're slightly blocking pile 2, this inevitable movement, which I do largely feel is very positive. There's kind of, these patterns here are making me think of footprints, so I think there's this sense of path. Yeah, there's a path that's opening up to you, or has been opening up to you, that feels like it's very much your path. It's kind of like there's a reluctance, though, there's a stalling to really put your feet in those tracks. Yeah, there's just a real sense of facing away from the full moon, so that's sort of facing away from the natural progress and movement of your life, and freezing there on the spot, because there's some kind of sense of fear of whether you're up to something, or feelings of inferiority that are rising that I think are really in your own mind, pile 2. Because I just get such a positive sense of things that are happening around you, that yes, you're more than ready, that you're more than qualified, you're more than capable. This is organic movement. This is the way that things should go. They're going this way because you put the work in, I think, pile 2, or you have earned this, you've put the effort in. Let's have a look at this monkey. Inner child, don't take life too seriously. Yeah, for some of you there just needs to be a release here with this moon. You need to take the pressure off of yourself. I think you've been, a lot of you pile 2s, very tense lately. There may have been a lot of waiting, there may have been a lot of high stakes circumstances unfolding around you. This monkey is sort of asking you to chill out, basically, to find opportunities to be more playful, create more balance in your life. So it's not like you're, because whatever is happening here feels very kind of serious and a really big deal, and it's important, I think, pile 2, to allow yourself also space in other areas of your life to just sort of be free and connect to more childlike, simple joys and things like that. Inner child, don't take life too seriously. It may be that a lot of you are facing quite a lot of responsibility that feels like you can't drop the ball, everything has to be hands on deck all the time, otherwise things will slip away from you, stuff like that. But this card, this monkey, is really asking you to kind of take the pressure off, don't take life too seriously. There may be some Capricorns that pick this. I'm getting quite a Capricorn vibe here, of just sort of very work focused and feeling like if you even give yourself a minute to yourself, that will be perceived as you not being completely committed or slacking in some way, something like that, which is a very Capricorn thing. It's not the case. Like, you've earned whatever going on around you, or whatever's coming your way, and you have to cut yourself some slack at times. Like, you are very committed to whatever it is that you're doing. I just think I really have this sense that a lot of you, like, you really have earned something, but there's some kind of, there's inner child, that there's something inside of you that's sort of telling you that you don't deserve it, or you're not enough. And that can create a real sense of blockage for allowing you to really receive the things that are meant for you, and to sort of show up for them and put your best foot forward. If you're always waiting for someone to tell you, oh, you shouldn't be here. The owl, it's interesting to me that the owl came up underneath the monkey, because they have such different energies, right? The monkey and the owl, they're sort of, their vibes, like the monkey is so light and playful, and this owl is sort of look at this owl. Ooh, the incisiveness, the wisdom. I am feeling that a lot of you feel watched and judged. Judgment coming up, as if there are eyes on you, there are eyes looking right into you. For some of you, this may be real people around you. For others, I'm feeling it's much more internal. So a state of inner judgment. inner scrutiny, intense sort of self-criticism. There was a lot of that in pile 1 too, so which is quite a Virgo energy. So there may also be Virgos here, people with strong Virgo energy. This tendency to really watch yourself in this piercing way for any perceived error or misstep. And this is a very intense and difficult energy that I think it's important for you to get a handle on, or just a different perspective about how extremely tough you can be on yourself, pile 2. There are likely things that, of course, this can manifest as people outside of you, or feeling like people are watching you and judging you when they're really not, and feeling that. For some of you, that it's really your inner critic and this inner judge that is leading you to believe that. So I think if you are able to approach that tendency within yourself differently, you'll experience the outside world differently. You likely won't have this expectation that other people are doing that. For some of you, this may be an inner child issue, like something that you felt growing up, as if you couldn't put a step wrong, otherwise you would be like punished or something like that. If that is the case, and if it feels quite severe to you, this is something that likely needs some kind of healing work or examination. Don't be so tough on yourself, pile 2. I wouldn't like this owl's eyes on me all the time. It's a bit intense, yeah. But hey, this is followed by the 10 of Cups. So yeah, I was feeling that whatever changes are happening, whatever's coming in for you for the for this full moon, like, they are positive changes. I mean, the 10 of Cups, always welcome in any reading, right? And this is a really, really lovely 10 of Cups. Look at this really soft peachy pink waterfall. Things are going well if you let them. If you let things, yeah, with this particularly, yeah, okay, so the full moon is like surrounded by the 10 Cups. So for some of you, this full moon may be a big point of like success, achievement, culmination in something you've been working towards. For some, yeah, just like a real moment of celebration. Allow yourself that, and try to, if something special, and because yes, Jupiter is conjunct this full moon, which, you know, is known for bringing blessings. If you are, for instance, Taurus rising, this Aquarian full moon is happening in your 10th house of career, so conjunct Jupiter, it may bring in a lot of career success. If it does, and I can't make any promises, I'm not qualified to promise you the cosmos will deliver things, pile 2, allow yourself to receive it. Like, receive what's coming to you, what you've earned. Like, you put the work in here. You deserve whatever. I don't know if you guys can feel it. This candle is a little strange. It's kind of a new one, and the wick is a bit weird. I don't know if you can see it on the video, but it's kind of noisy. Let's get back to your reading, pile 2. The 10 of Cups is coming in. Whatever that looks like for you, it will be different for all of you, but allow yourself to receive it without throwing in all of these doubts about whether you deserve it, whether you really did earn it, whether you're going to lose it immediately, all of this kind of stuff, because you feel there is an issue here with inferiority and feeling like, but it's just like, you got to remember also, pile 2, that a lot of people that seem super confident and like in the, you know, like they got it all going on, like, no, nobody really feels that way about themselves. Like, nobody has it all going on. Like, some people just do a better job of like projecting that they're all good and happy with themselves than others. So something to always remember. Everyone has, you know, goes into their own private realm at night and fights their own inner demons, right? There's no exceptions to that. So this idea you have of people looking at you and judging you as being out of place or as if you don't belong there, this is very much an interior thing. It's very much something that's coming from you, and it's coloring the way that you're perceiving the world. The 2 of Swords here, this is quite a shadowy 2 of Swords, right? Usually on the 2 of Swords card in the traditional deck, the woman is blindfolded, right? Usually in this card, and the swords are sort of blocking her, or she's kind of using the swords to protect her. There's avoidance with this card, but in this deck, in this Moonchild deck, she has this open space, and the way she's sort of, her hands are here, it's like these two options, two paths, whatever. It's often about a decision with the Two of Swords. It's like she's letting them be. This is an interesting depiction. It's like, yeah, the Two of Swords also, it can come across in the spread as a blockage, right? But that's not the energy of this card. You know, we're looking at what the full moon is bringing, the kind of energies that are around you, pole 2. And I think after a period of blockage, of stagnation, of not feeling like you're able to move, it's like the barrier is being lowered and you're able to kind of open your palms and face a more open landscape. Yeah, initially this seemed like quite a dark card, quite shadowy, but it's giving me a really good feeling that a lot of the blockages that you've been experiencing, pole 2, are going to kind of like part ways, and you're just going to feel more open, more free, and as if you can receive. That the typical Two of Swords is, they're blocked from any kind of conflict, right? They've retreated for self-protection, but they also can't receive anything. They can't receive anything coming to them because the swords are a blockage. You may have felt like you were in that state for a time, but you're coming out of that, and I do think this is something that the moon is bringing, or the moon is allowing you to put these swords down and receive what is coming to you, your due, what you've earned. Yeah. Congratulations, pole 2. This is really great. And we have the Sun card here, another really happy card, to join the 10 of cards here in this spread. The Sun. So the Sun, as we speak, is still in Leo, but this full moon coincides with the Sun moving into Virgo. Some of you may, of course, be late degree Leos or Virgos, so this full moon is conjunct your Sun. If that is the case, that won't be most of you, of course. Either way, it's like your day in the sun. Your sun, who you are, your identity, your ego is at the fore in this full moon period. Of course, when we speak of the full moon and when we're speaking about any moon phase, these are all cycles and they bring in new energy. It doesn't necessarily happen immediately. There are like doors opening along the path, right? So we don't know how long it takes for things to come in. It's not like clockwork, exactly, right? But the full moon is ushering in a new energy, and sometimes that energy can last even months. But with the sun, it's like you are being seen and recognized. Who you are, your sun. It is your moment. You are in the spotlight, and allowing that to happen without these sort of fears or inferiority feelings, or are you ready? Are you this kind of weird interloper? Are you somewhere you shouldn't be? No, you're not, pole 2. Like, you're where you're supposed to be, and you're being recognized. You're being seen. Your sun is on display. There is celebration. A celebration here with the 10 of Cups. Like, allow that. We have the core underneath this sun card, and it's interesting because the sun tells us something about our core personality, right? Who we really are at the depths of ourselves. And here it's like there's this burning piece of coal. Well, that's how I'm seeing this, and this redness that matches this sort of sun. There's a siren there. Just give it a second as it passes. Pile 2. Yeah, and you picked the red calcite, this red stone that's all about the root chakra. So I do think things are grounding for you, pole 2, or they will be. Something that has been up in the air or uncertain, or it's been in a state of progress, is rooting the core. But there is something about being seen and celebrated for who you really are at the core. There is something perhaps about the circumstances you're in right now, or the specific situation which will be different for each of you, that makes you feel more exposed perhaps than you ordinarily would there's something about what's happening at the moment that feels particularly close to the bone. So judgment around it feels very personal. And there's fears about judgment or eyes on you, but just know that there's so much positivity here. Celebration, the Ten of Cups, the sun, that you are being seen, and the judgment that you fear isn't, that's very much an internal thing. Your core. I do think also the way that this situation moves forward is going to change your life at its core. It's going to, in a sense, reestablish your footing within your own world. So this is a very important moment for you. Pile 2, like, the events that are going to be set in motion by the full moon, I'm sure that they've already been set in motion, but there's some kind of turning point here that allows certain potentials to ground, and this may well lead to a kind of re-establishing of your life. For some of you, it may be a career. I was feeling it's more of a career-based thing, but it doesn't have to be. Just about the circumstances of your reality. It's almost like you can rebuild something now. But I want to redirect your focus back to this monkey and a child, because it's just sort of sitting there here, and it's a slightly different sort of feeling to the rest of this, but it's allowing yourself joy, right? Allow yourself, like, celebrate yourself without, it's like if something good comes in for you, Paul, to allow yourself to feel that. Give yourself space to really celebrate yourself, because I know it's not easy. Like, don't mistake celebrating yourself for being complacent, right? Just because you decided to go out, do something fun, give yourself an afternoon where you just can pat yourself on the back, it doesn't mean that you're being complacent or taking things for granted, or that you'll somehow be cursed down by the fates for being like, no, you need to get straight back to work. If you have this opportunity, you need to be No, like, it's relaxation, and time for just play. And this is about the inner child. Don't take life too seriously. Whatever the situation is, it may have been like the center of your focus for so long that you can't look away for a minute. But we are really, of course, allowing yourself, like, me time allows you to strengthen yourself to return to your work, things like that. But I think in a more spiritual sense, allowing time for playfulness, for simple joys and wonder, connecting to our sense of wonder in that inner child way, is also a way to replenish our energy, to return to our responsibilities and work and things like that with a fresher, more balanced perspective, which may be needed here. I do think those of you that pick this pile do put a lot of pressure on yourself, and but this, I think, for many of you will be a time of joy and success. So, let it be. Let the good things come in. Let this unravel without telling yourself that there's some kind of catch, or if you don't keep your eye on the ball at all times, pile 2, that this thing that you will lose it. That's not what I think this is. It's like whatever is coming in for you, it's something that you have earned and you've been recognized. It's not something that you could easily, like, if you don't hold it with both hands, that it's going to slip out of your hands. I don't think that that's what this is. And I think taking that approach of sort of holding so tight so you don't lose things, this is also not such a wise approach to anything in general. Is letting what's for you come to you, letting what's not, or what is no longer for you, slip away when that's time to let things go, to be in tune with those natural rhythms and ebbs of flow of things come in and then they leave. None of this is happening in error, basically. It's all meant to be happening for you. So don't think that if you don't hold on tight enough, or you don't put in all this extra work or something. I do feel like a lot of you have already done the work and earned what's coming. So allow yourself to feel all the good things that are coming for you without this excessive self-scrutiny. Again, this may be a childhood pattern, it may be something, a kind of inner parent thing of sort of like, you've got to be good enough, you've got to be good enough, like trying to sort of observe these things for what they are. Once we recognize the pattern and can observe the symptoms, or when we tend to do them, these kind of things to ourselves, just recognizing this, just recognizing it, like what kind of things trigger it, recognizing what that voice is, like that's half the way to really healing it and recovering from it, is just being like, oh, I know that voice, I've heard that voice before, I know it's not mine, I know it's just like a pattern, it's a thing that I do and it's not helpful, it's not helpful to me anymore. So some of you may really relate to that. If this is you, then I'd love to hear from you guys. Do leave me a comment if you're resonating. Likes, subscribes and all of that are really helpful to build my channel, which is still pretty new, but I am very happy that you choose to spend this time for me, and I wish you the very, very best for this full moon period, for this culmination, this blue moon. I do think a lot of positive things are coming if you let them, Pile 2, and yeah, it was a pleasure to read for you, and I look forward to reading for you again. Bye! Hi Pile 3, and welcome to your reading. You picked the Amazonite. Love this green. Yeah, so today we're asking all about the full moon. The full moon in Aquarius, the blue moon that will be happening August 22nd. So of course it will happen at a different time, the exact full moon, depending where you are in the world. This is a special blue moon. Blue moons happen once every 2 to 3 years. So it's an interesting sort of celestial event. This blue moon is also conjunct to Jupiter, which gives it a bright, sparky vibe, and also, you know, the possibility for luck and expansion and all of those good things. So Pile 3, let's have a little look about what may be coming in for you with this full moon. We have the Queen of Wands, we have the 8 of Pentacles, we have the Knight of Cups, we have the 3 of Swords, we have the Snake, the Crow, 22, interesting, that's the numerology, and we have Humanity, interesting. Okay, let me just check that you can see everything here. Pile 3, let's get into this. The Queen of Wands. What I'm feeling here with this intense orange and this Queen of Wands, the person here in this card is sort of, what I'm feeling, Pile 3, is for a time, it's like there's been a kind of chaos around you, and you have been really, really trying to achieve a kind of inner peace. So despite change, despite a sense of perhaps upheaval or just unpredictability, uncertainty in your outer world, you have been trying to really hold on and hold fast to your inner sense of knowing, your intuition, to ground yourself within yourself in order to face the things that have been happening and changing around you. And I do feel like for many of you that these things have not been easy. There's been a lot of difficult change that you have had to face, whether you know, perhaps over the past year or even longer, within this moon period. So we had this first full moon in Aquarius last month, so it's like that full moon introduced certain things into our lives, but usually there's one full moon in each sign every year, right? We're getting 2. It's like it introduced a certain the possibility of something reaching some kind of conclusion or climax in your life, but then there's been this month period for it to kind of gestate before this final sort of climax on August 22nd. I do think that you've been waiting for something that could create a sense of relief or release from certain challenging circumstances, and you have been really, really holding tight. I'm getting a lot of you that it's like there's been voices around you or just intensity around you that you've had to tune out, and it has been extremely challenging. There's something that you're really, really trying to tune out, but there's focus on this full moon as being almost like a doorway. I think of these moons as like doorways that bring in new energy, to more of a sense of inner peace. We have the Eight of Pentacles, which often speaks of work. You know, usually there's someone hard at work in this card, right? But what I'm getting here is there's two... I love the Egyptian sort of imagery on these cards, but I wish I knew exactly what they were called, because they're these kind of feline-esque, sphinxy creatures. I want to read up on this stuff because I love the imagery. What's coming through to me though on this card is, so we have two figures that are sort of stone figures that are facing in other directions. So a lot of you, this may be about a breakup. You may have been through a recent separation of some kind. For some, it will be more fresh than others. Otherwise, and it doesn't have to be a romantic breakup either. It's some kind of separation or distance that has been created between you and something that was very significant, important, was a big part of your everyday life, and it has created. There's been a lot of chaos surrounding it. It has not been a clean break. It has not been easy for you. These two figures are looking in other directions, in separate directions. They're going in their separate ways. There's a lot of space between them. For some of you, there may have been disputes or issues around money or resources and how to distribute them. But there's these rainbows, see, that are coming off these figures. So both parties are now clear on, or if they're not, they will be, this new moon, this full moon. God, I keep calling it a new moon, but it isn't new, it's full. It's full and it's blue. Sorry guys. Yeah, if you're not already there, you will be. This full moon will be opening a door for progress here in terms of both parties going in separate directions. For some, yeah, a romantic breakup. For others, just some kind of division between you and somebody, something significant. It may be a job, just some kind of situation that you were committed to or that you were in. But this is telling me that with these rainbows on these cards, that both are ready to go in their separate directions, and the path is clear for both, but they are leading away from one another. So it's almost like there are final touches in some kind of process of separation here that has been a long time coming, that has been very, very chaotic for you. But I do feel, Pile 3s, that you have learned or will be learning a lot about how to ground yourself and find inner chaos among unpredictable circumstances, right? So we have the stake here, Kundalini rising. Yeah, I mean, Kundalini rising speaks to spiritual development. You have learned a lot through this situation, and you will be learning more. There's more growth to come. But as troubling or difficult or challenging at times as it may have felt, it has been a sort of essential and very meaningful learning process for you. Channel your creative passion and sensuality. Welcome the transformation. Yeah, it's often when it comes to creativity, when it comes to growth and insight, it's our difficult times that we really learn from. You know, they don't feel comfortable at the time, for sure. But that's where we get the pearls of wisdom. That's where the growth happens. And I think you have the wisdom to understand that, Pile 3. Like, you get that. It doesn't mean that you're not feeling the pain or the struggle and all of that, but you are recognizing there's growth here, or there's potential for growth. If you don't sort of bury your head in the sand, if you show up for these circumstances, there's all of this incredible possibility for growth. And also for enhanced intuition. I'm seeing this sort of blue, this eye here, like throughout this chaos and pain. And yeah, the situation, the circumstances will be different for all of you. Some of you, I am feeling, may have lost someone too. That there may have been a significant losing my voice. You may have lost someone important to you. Someone may have passed away. Not everyone. But whatever it is, it has brought about spiritual growth. There's this real feeling of, yeah, in the moment it isn't fun and it's immensely challenging, but you will look back on this time in your life, Pile 3, as being one of the times that you experience the most inner development. And it's like there's no easy way to get there. It's how we learn, is often through suffering. Suffering can be a kind of gift to us if we allow it to happen, if we don't turn away from it, if we go into it and allow ourselves to move through the other side, we can often become much more compassionate and empathetic, being really connected to that, you know. There is a kind of Buddhist idea, bodhicitta. It's about sort of enlightenment through suffering, which you may relate to, Pole 3. It's like, it's only in feeling our sadness, feeling our pain, that we feel connected to humanity at large. We feel connected to other people's pain, and empathy and being connected to others is sort of the purpose, right? That's love. That's why we're here. I think you already know this, Pole 3. I think I'm telling you something that you know. But if some of you are still more in a sort of, if some of you are still in more pain, then know that, and know that this full moon is bringing sort of a clear point of change. So if you've felt in a dark place for a period of time, a door is opening and you will be moving on to a different, new energy is coming in, and you'll be moving on to a slightly different stage. The crow. Interesting, I've seen quite a lot of crows around recently. I was watching one in the park yesterday, so yeah, I mean, the crows are often quite like folkloric creatures, right? I'm noticing this spiral here on this crow. This situation has allowed you to go quite deep into yourself, Pole 3, and the way the crow is, there is a blue moon here on this, well, it's a blue planet, so I'm going to call it the blue moon, and the crow has a very blue eye. I do think this is a very significant moon for you, Pole 3, in terms of your inner development and your spirituality. It may be that on the night of the full moon, if it falls in the night, of course, on the night of the 22nd, regardless, the moon will be full, or as good as full, depending on where you are in the world. If you don't already do things like this, I do think this pole in particular, Pole 3, creating some kind of ritual around the moon, perhaps writing something down, making a little fire in a safe and precautionary way, creating a little fire, and perhaps writing down things you want to let go, or things that you want to leave behind, a little offering to this moon. Sometimes I've done rituals around the moon, and sometimes not. It really depends on where I am and who I'm around. But I think I will this time around, and to be more observant of these moon cycles. It's important for us to observe these passages and these changes that we go through internally, that the moon sort of walks that passage, right? I do think it will be particularly beneficial for you, and I do think if you're open to it, this moon will bring a lot of insight and a lot of intuition. I do think a lot of you Pole 3s have been working with your intuition, but I think there's a lot more potential there for you. And as you move into these newer energies, I do think there's going to be enhancement around that area of your life. So around your spirituality and your gifts, the gifts that you have. Some of you may be thinking, I don't know what kind of gifts I have, I don't know that but I really feel like if you pick this pile, you do have more, there's more there to explore, for sure. Some of you may be quite advanced and may be aware of having certain spiritual gifts, but if that's not you, then know that these things are there for you to tap into. There is a lot of insight and wisdom there. And perhaps some of you have already explored this or are exploring it. Perhaps some of you have just touched the surface. But Crow is really telling me that there is a lot there. The way this spiral symbol, it's sort of endless, right? There's a rabbit hole there that some of you may have, maybe some of you have already gone down there. Maybe you're sort of peering over it, thinking, shall I go deeper into this? Another siren. It's very noisy here today, but let's wish the siren well as it goes to where it's going. Yeah, I like this crow. So we have this Knight of Cups here. There's almost like this stoic. The Knight of Cups are messengers. Sorry, the knights in general are messengers, or well, I guess the pages are messengers. The knights for me always speak of a certain energy, the energy in which we go after things. So each of the knights has a very distinct energy to which they are moving forward. The Knight of Cups is perhaps one of the slower, dreamy knight. what's coming through to me is this feeling of you, for a time, pile 3, may have felt like you were just putting one step in front of the other. Look at the way this horse is sort of like, yeah, not knowing where you were headed. And that has been a heavy thing for you to deal with. There's something very stoic to me that's coming through to me about the figure on this card. And it's sort of in this Queen of Wands, like the energy I was picking up and I'm picking up from this Queen of Wands is really not typical Queen of Wands vibe. I think you are a natural Queen of Wands, and that you are naturally vibrant, maybe very extroverted, perhaps prior to certain circumstances, which may look different for each of you. Perhaps you were felt much lighter, more joyful, more playful, or more connected to those parts of you, and it may feel like the past year or longer has put a real dampener on your natural spiritedness that the Queen of Wands usually exudes. A very positive, very vibrant figure, very confident, very often outgoing. You may be just naturally like this, and it might feel as if you've lost a part of yourself lately and you've just been putting one foot in front of the other. Know that this is all part of a process. You are heading where you're supposed to be going, even if you can't see the path at the moment. Yeah. It may feel like there's no easy way out of these energies because you have had to face so much pain. Lately we have the Three of Swords here. And it's like this Knight of Cups is sort of riding into the Three of Swords, right? I think you know that there's still pain, heartache here that needs to be healed, and it's just not an easy journey. It's not an overnight thing for you, but I think you're very aware of that. Yeah, but that is but the way that you're riding here, and there is a looming moon here. I do think that this full moon, pile 3, is going to give you some of the needed strength, although I think a lot of you are already showing a lot of deep inner strength. But this full moon is only going to enhance your ability to face whatever you have to face head on. Like, there's a head on energy here, even though it's slow, it's cautious, there's a lot of emotional weight to it. But there is more healing work to be done. You don't want to carry around forever whatever this Three of Swords is for you, and it's different for all of you. It has to do with some kind of separation. For some of you, this separation may have been chosen. For some, it may not have been that way, just like a horrible, unexpected separation. Whatever it is for you, it comes with this Three of Swords heartbreak. And you know, that's, life presents us with that sometimes, right? Pile 3, it's finding sort of the grace, and I am picking up on so much grace from this Queen of Wands, so much inner fortitude and awareness and ability to kind of roll with what life brings you. But as we move through this kind of doorway of the blue moon, you may be feeling at first almost more connected to your sadness, to your pain, but know if you're feeling connected to it, that you're close to it, that you are working through it, allowing yourself perhaps just time to cry, to sit by yourself and work through that. It's if feelings are rising for you and you feel close, like, that's a good thing. To feel sorrow, like, it's the opposite of depression and all of that. Like, depression happens when we don't feel our feelings, right? When we're detached from them. That's not where you are. Or if you have felt like you are there, pile 3, this full moon is going to allow you to get really in touch with your feelings and really essentially feel them. That's how we work through these things, and it's not like it's going to go away overnight, especially if we're talking about something like grief. And I do think for some of you that may be the case, not all of you, but something like grief is something that we process bit by bit over time, although the immediate aftermath of a loss is obviously the most difficult, the most challenging, the most acute. So all of you are facing different circumstances. But I do think this full moon is allowing you to get more in touch with your feelings, even if those are painful feelings. I'm drawn here to the orange that's surrounding this Queen of Wands. I absolutely love this depiction and the feeling I'm getting from it. So I do have the sense, because the orange is the sacral, right, which often speaks to creativity, that many of you pile threes may be very creative people, and that creativity, that creative practice, whatever that is a way for you to connect with your inner self, to move through difficult circumstances. If that is the case, then amazing, what a gift to have that kind of creative impulse and a way to stay connected. It's like a rope, right? It's like a lifeline in dark circumstances. I do think also this full moon will be enhancing that and allowing you, basically if you have creative gifts, they will also be enhanced by this full moon, which is beautiful. Let's have a look at this 22 here. So this is sort of numerology. So 22, you may be seeing 22 repeating numbers, and 22, I believe, people have different ideas about what repeating numbers mean. I think if you look up 22, it'll probably say something about connections with others. It's like twos and twos, right? Something like that. But no, if you're ever experiencing sort of patterns and signs, repeating signs, you can look online and Google things, and there are certain numerological, that's a hard word to say, numerological interpretations. But I do think it's similar to your dreams when we're talking about signs and patterns and synchronicities, that whatever you feel, it's very personal. Like, go with your intuition, because that's what these signs are trying to teach you about, your own intuition. The twos may speak of partnerships, of connections. I am feeling that you are more connected than you know to your, let's say, spirits, guides, angels, what have you, and that's another thing for you to tap into at this time, whether your creativity, spiritual practices, but just know that you are surrounded by love and support in ways that you probably don't imagine, in ways that you may not be aware of, that you are supported and you have so much strength to draw from. Another little message I'm getting, again, it won't apply to everyone, but if you are someone that has lost someone, asking for signs, you know, that can often, I've done it for sure, and I know other people that have. If you're just looking for comfort in something or some kind of sense of someone's energy around you, then ask for a sign. Ask for something and see what happens. Humanity. Look at all this lovely blue. Yeah, I do think a lot of you have just been going through a real kind of this pain. You may well look back on it and see it as sort of a catalyst for a real spiritual evolution or even awakening. I do think a lot of you seem, to me, the vibe I'm getting here, that you are very kind of spiritually mature. But, you know, some of you may be younger, or some of you may be like, this may be the first time in which you're looking or certain things, thinking about certain things. It's like within certain pain or suffering that you've been dealing with, Pile 3, something has opened and it's undeniable. I mean, I'm getting a bit of a third eye vibe here. There has been growth. There has been a kind of magic that has come, and our experiences of pain and loss and what have you are never simple. They're never just, you know, one-sided. There's always different emotions that coexist, and with any experience. And it's our sadness and our darkest times that also offer us the most potential for growth, expansion. This moon is all about expansion. It's conjunct Jupiter, so I just feel that you are expanding in so many ways, Pile 3. And this humanity card is making me feel like there's a lot. The changes that you're going through now, Pile 3, you will see the fruits of them. That they're bringing into, certain things are being set into motion here, and it has to do with your growth. And I just think that a lot of you are going to see a lot of growth in the next few years, next couple of years, a lot of things opening, a lot of enhancement in ways that you won't be able to imagine yet. And a lot of that, I think, does have to do with connecting to other people, feeling like you're really a part of the world and connected to humanity. Some of you may have Aquarius in your chart. Aquarius is a sign of the humanitarian. but regardless, it's like feeling connected to the world, like you're in the world and that you found your purpose and that you're in the flow of things. It may not happen overnight, but this is where this energy is going, this feeling of intense growth and intense sort of blooming into who you really are in a very, very deep way. It's so beautiful. I mean, I mentioned it's like in our deepest suffering, the bodhicitta, like if we don't resist our pain, it opens us up in an amazing way to be more compassionate to others. It paradoxically connects us to others. Even though we may feel very isolated, increased empathy does connect us to the world at large, to humanity, and I think that's part of this process and this change that you're going through, Pile 3, so do not resist it. What you're going through is amazing. It may not be easy, it maybe isn't the way you would have wanted this to happen, but there's some incredible change that you're going through, and it is that there is a beauty to it that I'm experiencing as a reader here. Even though I know a lot of you are likely in quite a lot of pain, I think you're dealing with it with so much grace and so much equanimity and so much composure. You're so much stronger than I think you give yourself credit for at times. Just putting one foot. Sometimes life is like that for a time, that we just put one leg in front of the other. We get through each day, but you're getting through it and you will get through it. And this full moon it's ushering in change, new energy, beautiful things are coming. Pile 3, trust that. Know that I am rooting for you, and this is a beautiful vibe. So if it's you, then you know, I my heart goes out to you, and it was an absolute pleasure to read for you and engage with you, and I really hope to see you again in another reading, and in the meantime I will be wishing you the very, very best as you move through this blue moon energy. Yeah, go for it, make a ritual, Pile 3, this Sunday. Create some kind of ritual, give yourself a little time to tune in with yourself and the energies of the moon, and I think it will be very fruitful and interesting for you. Okay, thanks guys, see you again in another reading, bye. Pile 4, welcome. You picked the Amethyst here. We're doing a full moon reading. So this Sunday, August 22nd, it is the second full moon in Aquarius that we've had this summer. The last was last month at 29 degrees Aquarius, conjunct Jupiter, which is an amazing aspect to have. It's bringing all kinds of luck and expansion into our lives. So Pile 4, let's have a little look about what you might expect from these new moon energies. Let's see what these, I'm having a bit of, this candle has been giving me some trouble. It's gone out now, but it has a very strange wick. But yeah, let's just forget about that. The Queen of Cups here, we have the Universe, nice. We have the King of Cups, interesting. And the King of Pentacles, okay. All right, okay. The Horse, Free Spirit, lovely. The Corn, and here we have the 11th house and Thorns. What an interesting spread for you, Pile 4. Yeah, interesting. Let me say just initially, for some of you may be, the 11th house, of course, is Aquarius's house, and this full moon is in Aquarius, but we are in Leo season. Some of you may have significant Leo or Aquarius placements. Obviously, Leo and Aquarius oppose one another, so if you are a Leo rising, Aquarius is your 7th house. If you are Aquarius rising, Leo is your 7th house, and the 7th house is all about the house of the other. You know, it's sort of the marriage house, the house of significant partnership, all of that. I do think this full moon is bringing to the fore issues of relationships, of connection, things like that for you. Yeah, so let's have a look at this. We have the Queen of Cups here. So this Queen of Cups is really contemplating something. She does feel quite solitary to me, although she is surrounded by some interesting energy. This Queen of Cups seems quite contemplative, which the Queen of Cups does tend to be, right? She is quite a dreamy queen, very in touch with her emotions, associated with the water signs, and the water symbol is here, so some of you may also be Cancers, Pisces, Scorpio, or have those signs as your rising sign. Either way, you're in a very kind of watery mood, Pile 4, as we face this blue moon, this full moon in Aquarius. There's a lot in your mind, and it has to do, I think, in many cases with love. Yeah, you're really very... Let me get back to that. You're very, very focused on... I'm not sure that it's a decision necessarily that you're trying to make. It has to do with just figuring out what you are feeling about something or someone or someone's maybe. But there's something very passive about this. The Queen of Cups can be a little passive. She's very, very connected with her own depths. There's a siren there. Just give it a moment. It's a very noisy day where I am today, Pile 4. Yeah. Okay. This Queen of Cups is just trying to figure out how she feels about something, but there is also a passive energy. It's like there's a lot happening around you, but you, Pile 4, are really trying to go within. We have the Universe here. What an amazing card. Gorgeous. Yeah. Again, it's like this, the figure in this card is holding the moon, right? She's holding, or this sort of globe. She's holding a lot. She has a lot in her hands. It may be that you have experienced a lot of sort of abundance or a lot of luck already lately, or if you haven't, that may well be coming in with you for this full moon. I want to kind of keep reiterating, as I have in the other piles, the full moon is not like clockwork, like we have things will rush in for us, although it can be the days around the full moon we may be able to relate to particular circumstances, but it's about ushering in new energy, which ushers in new kinds of things and circumstances, right? So if you haven't already felt these things, we've also had this pause between these two full moons in Aquarius. So it's like ordinarily we would have this culmination point of the full moon in a particular area of our chart, and then we move on to the next area. That's the flow of things. But this time around, no, the blue moon comes once every 2 to 3 years, in which the moon repeats itself in the same sign. So there's been an issue that was maybe introduced for you a month ago that's now coming to a contemplation, a culmination, but there's been this period of contemplation that you've been in, Pile 4. There's something in your hands here, there's something that you have. I do think it has to do with your heart, with the heart space, your emotions, and she's looking out into this incredible, cosmic, glowing, sparkly cosmos here. What an amazing card. Let's just have another look at it. If it hasn't already, Pile 4, so much is opening up to you, so much sense of possibility. It's very deeply emotional too. I do think I'm getting a huge feeling from this pile. Some of the other piles have been quite challenging energies. I'm getting more of a not light exactly vibe from this. I think whatever it is you're facing, it's very important to you, but a sense of release, or you've almost, the point you are now, it may or may not feel that way, as being quite it's been a long road to here, and you're just facing a different, if you're not already, a more optimistic perspective as this new moon energy comes in. It's like you're on this precipice, and there's this sense of hope and possibility that I do think is coming in for you if you're not already feeling it or haven't been feeling it over the last month. But I do think it has to do with, in many cases, your romantic life, but for sure your emotional life. This is a very emotional moon for you, Pile 4. And yeah, some of you may be water signs or have strong sort of placements in the water signs, Cancer, Pisces, Scorpio, but maybe not. I think some of you just may be going through a lot of emotional change and may be connected to your feelings in ways that actually isn't usual for you. Horse, free spirit, yeah. Give yourself the space and freedom to express your creativity. I do think that you guys, again, there was a bit of an Aquarian vibe here. You may be a very free-spirited sort of creature, pile 4, and you may have also been a very independent person, or are a very independent person, and have been very self-reliant. The pace of your life may have been very quick for a period of time. There's an adventurous sense to this, like the free-spirited, right? Partnership, emotional connection may not have been at the fore of your life. It may have not have been your primary point of focus, but that's changed or is changing. You may have put your creativity or your work as your focal point, pile 4. You may have experienced a lot of change and progress in these areas, but it's like, I'm almost getting this feeling that there's something very unexpected about this emotional change that you're going through. It's like you were looking in the other direction, and life also often happens this way. Like, your focus was in one direction and things were going forward and moving and all of that, and then something else presented itself to you because you had a lack of expectation, maybe. Or will be because you'll be at different stages when you're watching this reading, of course. The corn, so the corn, there's growth, there's productivity, there's also abundance, right? The abundance. It's like this full moon is conjunct Jupiter, and Jupiter will bring in plenty if you let it. It can, it's not always the case. And of course you have to look to your own chart to see where Jupiter is, of course where Aquarius falls in your own chart. If you're interested in the personal chart, look below, description box. You can always reach me at any time if you want me to interpret your chart, basically, so you have a better understanding of how to read these planetary movements and moon cycles in a way that's more personal to you. So yeah, reach out, leonora.astrotarot@gmail.com, if that does interest you, pile 4. But this corn is all about growth and abundance, right, and nourishment. All of this stuff, it's either coming through or it's about to. Like, there's this fertility, there's this sense of a lot coming in for you, but it also feels very unexpected, and there's something very passive. You're taking quite a passive approach, it feels, to knowing how to meet all of this opportunity, to knowing what is for you and what isn't, what you want, what you don't want, which is a really interesting vibe I'm getting for this Queen of Cups. It's like she's not rushing to claim anything, there's no eagerness about her. She's really just sort of observing, going within and reflecting on what she really wants for herself and what makes sense for her, because as we see, as I laid these out, we had 2 counterparts, but then we had this King of Pentacles show up. So let's see what I can get from this King of Cups. Of course, for some of you, you may be involved with someone, or there may be someone in your orbit. For some of you, there may be more than one person in your orbit that is interested in you, that is curious about you, that wants you, that wants a little bit of your time and attention and all of that. We do have this King of Cups, and I am sensing that this King of Cups is somebody that you may have a history with, and in some cases quite a long, maybe difficult, maybe just sort of slightly drama-filled history. You may be in separation from this person. I'm definitely having this feeling, pile 4, that you are done with that history. Not necessarily done with this person, but you're done with any kind of drama. Like, you don't want any repetition of the past. If this has been a challenging connection for you, you don't want any more of the same. You're growing out of that. You don't want any repeating cycles here. You're done with that. So that's a non-negotiable for you. You may have been around in several loops with this King of Cups. Gender doesn't matter here, just to clarify that. It doesn't matter if you're male, female, however you identify. These are just energies, right? This Queen of Cups is like there's a sort of a feminine, sort of more passive energy that sort of is sort of representing you, pile 4, but it doesn't matter what how you identify in terms of gender. There is someone that perhaps you have felt like was your match, was the one for you. For some of you, this may have been a relationship you were in. I am getting there's a sense of, if not a breakup, there's distance here between you and this King of Cups. So for some, it may be that you haven't seen this person in years and there's been a long-standing separation. For others, you may be with this person, but there's just a slight distance at the moment. And there's reflection about avoiding repeating cycles. So there has been challenges around this connection, and you are done with the drama or any challenges that have come with it. That's what I'm feeling. There's a real sense of knowing this, that there's no, you're not doing it. Whatever it was, it will be different for all of you. You're like, no, you want something more. So I'm not sensing that you necessarily are done with this King of Cups, because they are counterparts, right? There is a feeling of, but it's whether this situation can move forward in a different way, and that you're in a real state of contemplation about this, because there's someone else here, pile 4. Now, some of you watching this who've picked this pile may have immediately seen these cards show up and think, aha, I know who these two kings are. For some of you, let's have a look at this King of Pentacles. There's definitely a freshness and a newness to this King of Pentacles, whereas the King of Cups, I do feel for most of you, is like very familiar, or at least the situation is very familiar and long-standing for you. There's a deep history, there's a deep connection here. This King of Cups feels more fresh. So for some of you, this King of Cups may not have emerged yet. This may be something that the full moon is bringing you, right? The full moon is opening a door for new energy. I do think the King of Pentacles has something to do with that. So if there isn't already sort of an actual King of Pentacles that has emerged in your life, they may do with this moon cycle. However, for some of you, I'm feeling this isn't actually another person, but it has to do, it definitely could be and will be for some. But the sense I'm having is this contemplation that you have been focused on in this sort of more passive state, pile 4, has to do with the kind of partner that you want. The King of Pentacles often represents more of a sort of very stable, almost like ideal partner kind of vibe. Emotionally mature, has their stuff together. I think you've been doing some deep contemplation about what you are and are not willing to put up with from other people, and what you really want in a partner. And you're no longer willing to go around on these cycles and tolerate certain things. I think you do want to be somebody's priority, and you also are looking for peace in your life, emotional nourishment and harmony. That's a priority for you now. I was saying, I think for some of you may have been focused in different areas of life. And it's not like you want, it's not like now you're going to be focused on partnership solely. It's just like you're very aware of the kind of partnership you want that would be harmonious with the rest of your life and different elements of your lives. And I do think some of you are very successful, or you have a lot of creativity in things that you're doing and things that you're focused on. So this contemplation, this deep contemplation, has been what kind of partnership will be generative and energizing to me and will feed me and be like, you're thinking about, your ideal partner, your ideal partnership, what you want, what you don't want. And what you don't want is whatever this history is with this King of Cups. Some of you are contemplating whether you can have some kind of renewal with this King of Cups, but create a situation that is nourishing, that is emotionally harmonious, and you're unsure of that. For others, in some cases, right, there may be somebody new that has or will be entering your life that will have the qualities that you need, or will be able to fill the desires that you have. But for others, it's like this King of Pentacles is almost like a template or an ideal that you have decided that this is the kind of thing that you want. And if this King of Cups cannot be more like the King of Pentacles, that's it, you're done. It's like, this is the way you want things. It's not about it's not quite like that. It's more like, this is what you won't settle for less than what you know you deserve. And that's amazing. That's an amazing, there is something quite staunch about this Queen, of just sort of like, there's something quite non-negotiable. She's thought very deeply about this. And this King of Cups may have really put you through the ringer, Pile 4. Like, they may have created quite a lot of drama in your life, and you just don't want that. Like, you want to move into a more, harmony is really key here, a more harmonious state. So whether that's has to do with moving on to somebody else that has these qualities that you need, that's what you're going to do. You're going to do whatever you need to do to create more peace of mind. I'm really getting this from your perspective, and it's not about, who these kings are and whether this King of Cups can step up in the way you need, but it's about you reaching this point where you're no longer willing to tolerate certain things. You're no longer willing to go on these sort of same old cycles of just like another turn around and just like never moving forward with this person. So yeah, for each of you it'll look very different. We have this 11th house energy, which the 11th house is all about community and friendship, but it's also about humanity at large. It's Aquarius's house, and I have mentioned that there is some kind of Aquarian influence that's coming through here. It's interesting because it's as if you sense, Pile 4, that there is this emotional energy around you, and partnership is sort of, something is changing in that area of your life, but at the same time you also have this broader focus. The 11th house has a very strongly progressive and forward-moving energy to it. There are other things that are on the horizon for you, and you don't want this situation taking up all your time. Perhaps in the past you have sort of found yourself very, very consumed by, this King of Cups and whatever they're doing, and you're moving out of that. Whether this King of Cups is going to come along for the ride of wherever you're going to next, maybe they will, maybe they won't, but only if they can show up in the way that you need. But that definitely seems like you are focused on going somewhere. The way this horse, this free spirit, you have certain plans. There are changes that are in motion. There are things that you want, things that you're doing, and you're not going to be held back by anyone. So it's like, you can come and we're going to do this in a certain way, or otherwise don't bother. And that's an amazing, good for you, Pile 4. For a Queen of Cups, like, she's very, like, she almost has a kind of Queen of Swords type edge of like, I'm not putting up with any more bullshit. Like, I'm going to do this. I've been through stuff. I've seen this, I've learned from my mistakes, and I'm not going to repeat them anymore. But she is very emotionally focused. But it's like there is a kind of almost Aquarian slight objectivity that this Queen of Cups is taking with her feelings. She's very connected to her feelings, and she's really contemplating them, but at the same time she has a kind of mature, objective stance to them, where she's looking at like, well, the last time I did this happened, and I got myself into that kind of situation before. I'm not going to do that again. It's like she's not jaded, she's not cynical about love, but she has new perspective, and she's interpreting her experience into knowledge and awareness, and that's amazing. We have this Thorns card here. Yeah, check this out, guys. Oh, my battery, sorry. I'm still here. Sorry. Little disruption there. Thorns, yeah. I think you're very aware of, there's definitely something that you're doing, or something that you're moving towards, this free-spirited, it's like there's growth and abundance in more than one area of your life, and this full moon conjunct Jupiter may bring possibility and gifts in more than one area of your life, Pile 4. For some reason you feel almost obliged somehow to be contemplating these things, but there's more going on for you, or there will be. And one thing that you want very much is not to be distracted, or perhaps in the past, you felt quite consumed by this King of Cups person, or maybe just by love in general and partners in general. It doesn't have to be that there's one King of Cups for you, but just like allowing yourself to become quite consumed by relationships, by people, at the expense of other things. So perhaps your career, your creativity, things like this. And you're at this point now that you want more balance, and you want, if you are going to open your life to a connection, you don't want that person sort of draining all of your energy. You want them to be complementary to your life, and it has to be something that's going to work for you. This thorns, yeah, you don't want it to be a thorn in your side. You want someone in your life that is going to create growth, that is going to bring something to the table, bring something, not drain you. Someone that will energize you, not feel like they're dragging you down or holding you back. That's really important. You don't want, perhaps in the past you have experienced relationships that way, part 4, like as a thorn in your side, as being restrictive, as being painful. It's like perhaps you had wanted to do something, or you had a certain dream, and then you felt you lost time because you got wrapped up in some kind of dramatic emotional situation, and you're not going to let it happen anymore. You might have questions about, like, can I find a relationship that's harmonious and feels like it's kind of mutually beneficial and you're all good for each other? And yes, you can. I think you have this, whether this King of Cups is a real person or not, or they're just an idea of a person, like, you are very focused on what you want. And I do think that what you want, if you can imagine it right, and if you're like, no, it's going to be this way, I'm not going to settle for less, I'm not going to tolerate certain behaviors, then you can create that. It's about what you're willing to, because once we set these ideas in mind, right, I want to be with someone who respects me, somebody that is mature, is able to handle themselves in their own life, and they don't need me to be, constantly clearing up after them all the time in an emotional sense or what have you. Once you're aware of what you want, the way you look at people will change. So naturally certain things will appear to you that maybe wouldn't have in the past before you had experienced this growth, and you'll be able to recognize the kinds of people that are able to bring things into your life. I think you are at that stage now, or this full moon is really ushering in this energy, which I think will inevitably lead to growth in this area of relationships and partnership. And for some of you it may be, this King of Pentacles is a real person that if they haven't arrived may well be arriving, and perhaps that's going to put this King of Cups like in a bit of a position where he has to up his game or lose you. It'll look different for each of you, but you're in a good spot, pile 4. Trust me, like, there is emotional growth happening here, but I can also sense that there's just this wider 11th house, broader growth that is happening for you. You don't want any thorns in your side. You don't want things holding you back. You've been through a lot. You've been there. You just want this harvest, this nourishment. You want freedom. You are naturally a free spirit. And I think, this full moon is going to feel very freeing. But it's also due to the work that you've put in, and this inner work and self-examination, and also examination of your past and past patterns that are leading to just a greater sense of possibility in terms of what might be coming in for you. So this is like a really positive pile 4. So if you feel like this is your story, or you do have these 2 kings after you, I'd be very curious to know. Please let me know in the comments if you're resonating, and like, subscribe, notification bell, all that sort of stuff really does help to grow my channel in its early stages, and I really do appreciate it, and sort of happy to have you here spending time with me, pile 4. It does mean a lot to me, and I do love reading for you all. So it's been a pleasure, and I look forward to enjoy this full moon. Enjoy the full moon. I did say in another pile, I think in pile 3, that if you can, mark this full moon with some kind of ritual acknowledgement. I think that will only enhance the possibility of it, the potential of it, to really engage with the energy. So if that isn't part of your life, creating these sort of moon rituals, then it might be something worth considering. But yeah, thank you, Pull 4, and I look forward to seeing you in another reading. Bye!